What's good, YouTubers and YouTubettes? This is JB Sports, back again with another one. Big heavyweight unification fight this Saturday. Not creating a lot of buzz out here in the United States of America. Not a lot of buzz for this fight, but this is a very important fight for the heavyweight landscape. As a unified heavyweight champion and former undisputed cruiserweight champion, Alexander Usyk will defend his titles when he takes on former unified heavyweight champion, former Olympian who has the whole country on his back as they're looking for him to recapture the belts that he lost to Usyk earlier this year. This fight's going down in Jeddah, Saudi Arabia, in the Middle East. Now, people ask, why is this fight taking place in Saudi Arabia and not taking place in the UK where the first fight took place? And it's a simple answer to that. It's the moolah. It's the money. If it ain't making dollars, it ain't making sense. Saudi Arabia has been going in their bag here recently. They've got a lot of former PGA golfers to come join their events, LIV event. And here recently, they've been putting up the bread for big fights, in particular big heavyweight fights, as this was the same country that hosted Anthony Joshua versus Andy Ruiz too. So we will see what happens. We will see what transpires. Now, the venue is not the same, but it's the same country, and more than likely the same investors that picked up the money and gave Eddie Hearn the bag. Eddie Hearn is getting a huge site fee once again to put on a big fight promoted by Matchroom Boxing. So we will see what happens, and we will see what transpires. At the end of this fight, it's either going to be a hell of a redemption story for Anthony Joshua, or this will be another strong case that should be made for Alexander Usyk being at the top of the list for pound in the sport of boxing. So we will see what happens, and we will see what transpires. Anthony Joshua has got to impose his size on Alexander Usyk. He's got to impose his will on Alexander Usyk. He must go back to the old Anthony Joshua. I'm talking about the Anthony Joshua before the Vladimir Klitschko fight. I want to see the Anthony Joshua that fought Dominic Breazeale. I want to see the Anthony Joshua that fought Dillian White. I want to see the Anthony Joshua that destroyed Prince Charles Martin. If that Anthony Joshua shows up, we in for a hell of a fight, ladies and gentlemen, because even if that AJ shows up, there's no guarantee that he beats Alexander Usyk. That's just how good Alexander Usyk is, my friends. It's going to be a very intriguing matchup if that Anthony Joshua shows up. But the problem with that is we haven't seen that Anthony Joshua in a long time. And for me to expect Anthony Joshua to show up after all these fights that he's been MIA, or maybe the fight with Vladimir Klitschko when he got dropped made him gun shy. I believe that's the likely reason why he's fighting the way he's been fighting since the Vladimir Klitschko fight. So we will see what happens, and we will see what transpires. But Anthony Joshua must impose his size advantage. He's the naturally bigger guy. He's a guy with the more power, but he must come in behind the jab. He must come in behind the jab, and he must land the right hand, and he must land the right hand often, especially early in the fight. He must get Alexander Usyk's respect with that right hand. He must make Alexander Usyk bring the high guard up, and that will set the stage for him to land the uppercut, his best weapon. So we will see what happens. We will see what transpires. He must back Usyk up. He must go to the body and break Usyk down. He must go balls to the walls in this fight, because Anthony Joshua is a guy that when he comes into the ring, he don't have a full tank of gas. He got a half a tank of gas. After 6-7 rounds, his punch output goes down. His overall boxing prowess, for lack of a better word, goes down. He's just not the same fighter in the second half of the fight that he is in the first half of the fight. I believe it's largely due because of the muscle mass that he has. Drains him quicker than a guy that doesn't carry that amount of muscle mass. So we will see what happens. We will see what transpires. Now, the weigh-in is going to be very interesting to see where AJ comes in at. I believe he needs to come in lighter in this fight. I just got through talking about muscle mass. If he comes in around 230, 235, no more than 240, but he needs to be about 230. 225, 230, lighter, not as much muscle mass. I believe that's going to improve Anthony Joshua's chances in this particular matchup. So we will see what happens, and we will see what transpires. Now, Alexander Usyk is a southpaw, very, very crafty. He's one of the guys that is a crafty fighter, but is a talented fighter at the same time. Usually when you talk about a guy that's crafty, you say he's very crafty, but you're not really looking at him as a guy that's the most skillful fighter in the world. He's got skills, but he's not on the level of Terrence Crawford or Errol Spence Jr. or Javante Tank Davis or Devin Haney or Shakur Stevens. He's not on that level. He's more like a crafty guy, like you say with Mauricio Herrera. Remember that guy that got robbed against Danny Garcia? A lot of people called him crafty. But what I'm saying about Alexander Usyk, he's crafty, but he's got skill behind that. That's what makes him a special fighter. That's what makes him a pound-for-pound fighter. That's what makes him a former undisputed cruiserweight champion and now a unified heavyweight champion. He's going to be looking to set it up with the jab, coming from the southpaw stance. So his power shot's going to be coming from the left hand. And he's a guy that not only is going to be jabbing upstairs, but he's going to be jabbing to the body. He's a guy that he's going to be punishing all over your body. He ain't going to just be head hunting. He's going to be looking to break AJ down to the body. He's just a very, very smart, scientific type of fighter. And he's a guy that has much more tools in the toolbox than Anthony Joshua, as far as he's a more versatile fighter. And he's a more complete fighter than Anthony Joshua. That's why Anthony Joshua is going to have to use what he has advantage in. That is the size advantage. That is the power advantage. And that is the advantage of him having the longer reach. And that's why I'm saying the jab is going to be very, very prevalent for Anthony Joshua to establish the jab, make Alexander Usyk have to reset, and make Alexander Usyk have to try to counter you. And once he tries to counter you and tries to come over the top with the jab, that'll set everything up as far as left hooks to the body, left hooks up top. That'll be setting the stage for all that to transpire. So he definitely needs to establish that jab and then land that right hand early and often. And then once he gets Alexander Usyk to cover up, then that will set the stage for him to land his best weapon, in my opinion. That is the uppercut. So we will see what happens. We will see what transpires. Now I see this fight going Anthony Joshua way early on. I think he's gonna be very, very competitive early on. I ain't gonna say I wouldn't say he's gonna be ahead early on. I say in the first 6 rounds it's very, very competitive. I won't be a bit surprised if it's 3-3 after 6 rounds. But I just think Anthony Joshua just slows down, and I think after the first half of the fight, Alexander Usyk starts to take over the fight. Round 7, round 8, round 9. I think all those rounds are gonna be Alexander Usyk's type of round. And I think he's just gonna slowly and methodically, he's gonna break down Anthony Joshua. A lot of people say they think Alexander Usyk gonna do him worse in this fight he did in the first fight. I don't necessarily think it's gonna go down like that. I think Anthony Joshua is ready to fight. Now, Robert Garcia is his trainer. Robert Garcia is a guy that's an offensive-minded trainer. He coaches aggression, and he's a guy that, not a guy that's gonna be if you're trying to be a slick fighter, Robert Garcia is not your guy. But if you're a guy that wants to be aggressive, which AJ is definitely going to have to be in this fight, I think Robert Garcia is the trainer that is good for that. A lot of people have been down in AJ on bringing in Robert Garcia. Only thing I would say about that is it's going to be kind of hard to implement your style of training with a fighter in one camp. I think that's going to be kind of hard to do. Hopefully, no matter what the outcome is, AJ stays with Robert Garcia. And I think that could be a situation where he could slowly but surely gain the knowledge from Robert Garcia and implement the style of fighting that Robert Garcia has been known to over the years and become that much more aggressive fighter a la Marcos Maidana, Jose Cito Lopez. Now, his top fighter, Mikey Garcia, is a guy that's an aggressive fighter, but he's got controlled aggression. He's a boxer, puncher. He's a guy that's he's very versatile, Mikey. He can kind of box on the outside. He can come towards you. He can counter you and stuff like that. And that's got to be the ultimate model for Anthony Joshua, because Anthony Joshua cannot be a Marcos Maidana or Jose Cito Lopez, a guy that's constantly coming forward and stuff like that, taking shots just to get close, to get in your shots. He don't have the chin for that. He don't have the punch resistance for that. He don't have the willingness to engage since the Vladimir Klitschko fight to do that style of fighting, in my opinion. Now, like I said earlier, if he can go back to that AJ before the Vladimir Klitschko fight, then we've got a very, very intriguing matchup on our hands in a fight that can go either way. But I tend to believe that he's much more like the AJ that we seen after the Vladimir Klitschko fight. I think we're going to get the AJ that fought Pulev. Remember the AJ that fought Pulev? That was a very good AJ. I think we're going to get that version. The AJ that fought Usyk, you know, that wasn't AJ's best version. I think we're going to get the AJ that fought Pulev, and I think he's going to be very, very competitive in the first 6 rounds. But I think after the round 6, I think Usyk takes over the fight, and he ultimately stops Anthony Joshua in the 10th round to retain his WBA, WBO, and IBF titles. I think AJ puts on a good performance, and I think that sets the stage for AJ to get another big, big fight back in the UK, possibly against Derek Chisora or a Dillian White. More likely a Dillian White. That's the big fight they probably gonna want to do. They can put that over there in the Wembley Stadium. That would be a big fight. 80, 90,000 UK fans in attendance. That would be a big UK domestic level fight. So I think AJ is gonna do himself very well in this fight. I just think he's just fighting a guy that's just a more versatile, got more tools in the toolbox, and a guy that's right now is on the top of his game, man. Is in this prime of his career, and is one of the best heavyweights in boxing, one of the best pure boxers, pound for pound, in the sport of boxing. Very crafty and very technical and very power that's very underrated too. He's got power. He's got power. You see what we did to Tony Bellew. Ain't nobody did that to Tony Bellew outside of Superman. You know, Stevenson, that's the only guy that did Bellew like that. You know, knocked him out and put him into another atmosphere. You know what I'm saying? So let's see what happens, and let's see what transpires. Follow me on Facebook, Gerard.Briscoe.3551. Like, share, and subscribe to JB Sports, the man, the myth, the legend. And I holla.